Hello and welcome to another EDM tutorial. This video is all about panning and just a quick explanation as to why we pan, why it's an option and where to use it possibly. This is how I use it creatively anyway. So as you are hearing this particular piece, the pad 1 is probably a little bit more dominant to the left ear if you've already noticed, especially if you're wearing headphones. And the reason being, pad 2 dominates more of the right ear, as heard here. And the only reason that this is done is to kind of stop them clashing in the dead centre, but also at the same time is widening the sound just naturally by just panning them. They're not hard panned, they are panned 54 to 58, just to give that nice little kind of extra width in the sound before processing. Sorry, I lie here, it's 30 and 29, I'm looking at the percussion over there. So if we just listen to these two sounds on their own. Now the reason panning is kind of 30 to 29 is I've just dragged them there. There's no specific reason why I've done one kind of higher than the other, but what is happening here is the sound has been thickened up and at the same time it's leaving room for some extra processing to really kind of brighten and widen that sound. So I'm just going to quickly show you how to manipulate now from the panning. So we're going to start with sausage fattener. I'm going to use that on this first synth. Right, we don't want to go too bright with the colour on this because we're going to do a little bit more later. And then we're just going to knock the gain down a decibel there just to control it back down. And then on the right channel, let's do something a little bit different. Let's go for, I think, fan filter possibly. No, let's go for a chorus. We'll go for the built-in key-based chorus. I'm just turning it up so you can hear the full effect. Just having a little bit more width in there, just a bit of warmth, and then to top it off I think we'll just throw in fan filter Saturn there. Just some warm tape. Sounds quite nice. I might go in there and edit some settings later. Right, so let's just see what we started with just before this, before we added these. Quite flat and they sound good, but they're not quite up front in the mix. They're not really blending in with the rest of the track that's really pounding out. So just some different ways of just brightening the sound up there. Then on this side, because it's more triggered based, it's actually got like an arpeggio sort of transgate feel. I'm just going to use a little Petite Excite. So slightly, just to bring up those levels. So let's put that in the mix in context. So they sound a little bit more up front there, there's some heavy side chain on there, but if we just listen to them without these bits, it does flatten it, but there's no sparkle in those two sounds. Now we've got sparkle and we've got some width. Now the next thing that is panned in this, another example, is these two chill percussions here. So that's these two bits down here. Now these are panned to 54 to 58. They originally were hard panned, but I think it was just a little bit too dominant and obvious in the earphones that they were smashed left and right. So the reason is just to spread them out a little bit, so it's exactly the same sample but pushed into each ear, and they've both got slightly different effects on, just to kind of really give you the sense of width in the sound, and it does help it stand out a little bit more. So let's just jump in here. So I've got a stereo delay, but obviously because it's panned left, more of the left channel is going to be dominant, but still some of this will get through, but not much because we've already panned it halfway to this side. So we've just got a 1/4 and mixes down, and I've just taken some of the lows out, as opposed to the right channel, which has got 1/16, and we've got it very low on the mix, and we've cut some of the lows out as well, and then kind of similar from the other side there. Chorus on the left channel, just to thicken the sound up. So if we just take this away, it becomes very centered. Put it back on. So it's very subtle, but it just thickens it up a little bit. And then on the right channel, we've got Fab Filter Saturn again, and I've just chosen the Break My Loop patch out of the sequences and turned the mix down on both channels. If I turn the mix up, okay. So usually I'd probably go in and make my own kind of glitch sounds and stuff, but for the purpose of this demo, I've just used a preset. So you get a real sense of width there. If we just take the inserts away, that's how the loop comes dry. And then we've given it a real sense of purpose now to be with the rest of the actual musical elements there. So let's have a listen to it in context, with and without the effects. So with, and this is without. So they become really centered again and really focused on the mix. They're not softened and blended into that actual track. So it just takes the focus off it. So it gives you a little bit more play with the other sounds that you want to put in between and things like that. And finally, these are not set rules, by the way. It's down to your creativity and how you want the sound to work. It's more noticeable when you actually do thicken sounds up. It's kind of a technique, but also an experiment, depending on what you want to achieve, basically. Finally, if we just look at this tree effect, first of all, I've put Roomworks on, which I've just kind of maxed out and then just mixed it down a little bit. Focus it on the highs, taking some of the lows away, so nothing special there. Then just use EQ just to knock off the low end, as you'll see now. Okay, so just to get rid of that rumble that will clog up the mix. Then I have gone on to Waves Stereo Shuffler. Now this is kind of based on width, but then also you can skew it. So you can alter its position in the stereo field, kind of not just left and right, but more depth. So that's kind of up front and centered, and then it goes further back. Obviously the asymmetry would be in the middle there. So right at the back of the mix, right in the center of the mix. So I've gone maxed out on that just because it's an effect. Usually on synths and stuff, I would have it somewhere like here, and this would be centered, and obviously just position it slightly different to the rest of the sounds. But this particular one, I just want it maxed out, and it does sound quite nice. So that's another use of creativity in panning, but giving some depth to the mix rather than just width. That can be applied to synths, and it can be applied to vocals. It's just how you use it, and don't just overuse it just because it's there. And that's all I do really with panning. It's about if you're going to pan something left and right and it's the same sound, for example, you're going to put on different effects to obviously make it a bit more distinctive, but at the same time make it sound like it's really just one sample and you've done nothing to it. And one thing I didn't mention, these two things go into a perc bus here, which then have just a little bit of compression on there just to control those peaks. But it is a parallel glue, and that's a preset. And then Petite Excite just a little bit, just to bring some of those top kind of bongo sounds out. If we just turn that off, everything seems to go really flat, but the exciter obviously excites the bits that you want. So I've just taken that on board for the top end of those bits. And that is really all I do. It's just creativity. Just do what you feel sounds right. If you need to go extreme, you go extreme. It works in an EDM build-up where you really want to kind of smash the last bit of the build before the drop, and you could pan everything left and right, back and forth really fast just to give you that kind of disorientation before the drop. You can have 3 vocal lines, the same vocal. 2 of them are left and right backing vocals. The third one is the central vocal, the main focus, so you can make a nice thick vocal layer. So there's plenty of options and plenty of uses for panning, and I do hope that has explained a little bit for you. So thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please give me a like, comment and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.